Welcome back, everybody. Today we're interviewing Phill. Phil's been in a mortgage loan officer position now. Just got your license. How long ago, Phill?
April. This past April.
Past April. Come on, somebody. That's awesome. So just fairly new in the business. Phil's going to just kind of give us some background about his experience and all that good stuff. So, Phill, why don't you just start us off? What kind of really led you to jump into this business in the first place?
Well, one of my main goals is one, I've always enjoyed real estate, or it's always intrigued me, right? To get more interested, learn more about it. How can I get myself in the game?
Yeah.
Right. I always hear about these rehabbers fixing flip, making tons of money. So of course, like naturally, that's what sparked my interest. The reason why I chose the loan officer side versus like the realtor side is because I liked the added flexibility. As long as I'm able to answer my phone, I got my laptop, I can work anywhere, even if I have to go on vacation, work a couple hours in the morning, and then continue vacation mode. I love that flexibility, that aspect of it. Me personally, my personality, I'm a people person, so I tend to easily strike up a conversation with the most random person. My wife always says, I can't leave him alone by himself for too long because he's going to be talking to somebody. So, I feel like this LO side, this industry kind of fits, me personally.
Yeah.
Like in that aspect. My sales background, I currently do chemical sales. So right now I'm in the transition mode from chemical sales, selling to food and beverage plants, to mortgage full time. So that's kind of my background as far as the sales. I've been doing that for probably about 3 years now. So that has a ton of flexibility. So I feel that's what I liked about my current sales job, is that it was flexible. Work from home, my own schedule, my own hours, but and translated more so to the LO side. It's in that with that similarity.
Yeah. And what kind of made you go into the sales? Because it sounds like you kind of just started the sales, in the last 3 years, which I would imagine that's some really good training for you now, right? So it's like a lot of times we go through and we get these jobs out there, but sometimes the job is to prepare you for something else. Right.
Yep.
And a lot of times what drove me to this industry, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be the CPA, and I went to school for a few months about, becoming that. And right away, I said, no, this is not for me. I finished the 2 classes and I never took accounting again. Right. So I said, I got to find something else. But I wanted to get something done in finances, real estate, very similar to that, like that as well. And eventually I said, mortgages, wow. Because, I wanted to do something where I could help and serve people, but at the same time make lots of money, right? Because, that way I could give more money away and also just be just do things around the house and do stuff for my family. It's really what it's all about. So definitely I was thinking more on the income side, and that's what kind of drove me in the mortgage side, along with some of those flexibilities. So did that play a part with you, where you're currently at now? Because you said you're in this transition period, right? You're doing some sales, you got this other job, which is full-time, correct? You got this full-time job out there, and now you're in this transition. What did the income as a loan officer have any role to play on that?
Yeah, well, so initially what drove me to sales, where my current position is at with my chemical company, the fact that I didn't have a cap, right? But as things progress, I finally realized that there is a little bit of a cap where that's at. So what drove me to even be more motivated to become an LO is that it's literally there's no cap. However, if you're driven, you got the motivation, you got your why, and it's strong and it's fire within inside you, the world is yours. Really, it's up to you. How determined are you? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it comes down to. We can't create someone else's drive and turn inside them. It has to be naturally within you. So for me, I know how to work hard. I'm very driven, and I know my why. And my why is my family, my daughters, my wife. I have this I think big. And if I don't, I like to think big. I like to, establish goals. And if I fall short, hey, at least I know I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Is as long as I'm better than, tomorrow than I was today, I know I'm advancing. So that's my mindset. That's kind of, really like what drove me is, yes, the higher income, the true no cap, how driven are you? That's what, the flexibility, like I mentioned, those are all big reasons why that, I pursued the LO side. And honestly, this would have never been, I would never have been able to do this, especially like without the support of my wife, because as you know, Dave, getting licensed, going through that grind, it's not easy. I literally didn't see my family for 2 weeks. I just put the blinders on. I'm like, hey, let's sacrifice now to build for our future. So I got my family's on board, my wife's on board, and she's like, here, take the keys. You have them, go. So that's my.
So you took the keys, you went for it. 2 weeks later, you started studying this task. Boom, you passed it, right?
Passed it.
And that's what it takes is that it literally takes somebody to just say, hey, I'm doing this, and there's just no other options at this point in time. And that means you're going to put that much more work into studying this stuff, right? Studying to take the test.
100%.
And then you passed, right?
Right.
And I think we met maybe right after that or so. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Had my phone, my network, my Rolodex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just reached out to some contacts that some buddies. I wouldn't say contacts, but he, a true friend. That I had, worked with in the past, and I see that he's been, in the real estate game. He's been, I see his success. I saw it on Facebook, always showing him some love and support. Like, hey man, I see you. You're putting out, you're grinding. So, and I respect that. So I reached out to him. Just based on our last working relationship we had together. So I'm like, hey man, like, this is my situation. Like, do you have any advice? Got some pointers from him. Like, what do you think? And then he put us in contact, so I picked up the phone, gave you a call, and, I figured, I was like, hey, I have nothing to lose. If it's a no, I'm okay, because it's not changing anything.
Not changing anything, yeah.
So it's like, and I think like having that mindset, like not being afraid of like rejection is also like something that you need to have.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're in life, you're going to get rejected. That's part of the process.
Yeah.
Same thing. You're not going to get every deal. We want every deal. But that's how we like build our relationships too, so we can start getting every deal.
Right. So you talked about relationships right now. So now you started this business. Essentially, you're part-time, right?
Yes.
Just to be clear for all the listeners that are listening right now, is that you're part-time. You are working full-time somewhere else.
Yes.
That your main goal is to transition so you can be a full-time loan officer, right?
Yes.
So sky's the limit after that point, right?
100%.
I mean, it's just like
you already know my vision, Dave.
Yeah. So just imagine, like, limits are made to be broken out there. Like when I first met the CEO at Your Home Guaranteed Realty, his name is Rudy Kasuma. When I first met him was in 2012, and in 2012 I think he was making right around $250,000, right? Wow. And which is not shabby. Come on, like
that's average income. For over here, that's really good.
It's not too shabby, right? But then the more I was around Rudy Kasuma, I saw him go from, eventually got up to $1 million GCI income, right? It was just him and his wife, and he's now knocking it out of the park. And people are like, what the heck? Like, how's this guy making this kind of money? And then eventually it's $3 million a year. And now it's like above and beyond $15 million GCI, because that number is growing by the minute. So just imagine last year, tons of transactions. This year, they're doing even more transactions where the market's actually declining right now, and they're doing more sales. Could you imagine that? It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So there's no limit to this, like you were saying. Like, as long as we keep pressing for that next limit, and then when you get there, you're going to define a new limit, right? So when Rudy was doing that business when he was at 250, he's like, I want to get to 300, 400. And he gets there, next level, next level, next level. Before you know it, you're at $10, $15 million.
Yeah.
So, and now Rudy gives a lot of that money away, but he also helps a lot of realtors out there, because they provide the coaching, the training, the leads, everything that they need to be successful, because he truly cares about the people that jump on his real estate team. Is that, he wants to be, he wants to make sure they're successful. So with that, I mean, would you mind sharing as far as right now, knowing that, you're just starting this career and your dream is, it's definitely more than what you're making right now, right? Your goals, right? And as long as, I truly believe, as long as you just stick to having those dreams, knowing that you're going to be rejected from, right? It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
But you just keep pressing forward. What are some of the things that you're able to take away right now in this short period of time frame that maybe somebody else is out there that was once in your shoes, that you can share with them, that, has been a kind of like a turning point, that you can say, hey, there's this turning point where a lot of times this turning point creates more confidence. There's just a little bit more confidence now that you're in this business, right? Mm-hmm. And because of this confidence, do you have realtors that you're working with?
Yep.
Okay, so you got realtors you're working with in 3-4 months of this business. That's an amazing. So there's got to be this turning point that took place that actually allowed you to get these realtors out there to start actually, sending you business, right?
Yep. And I think one of the biggest things is celebrating, the small victories.
Yeah.
Because that's huge. If you get caught up on the end result and forget the process, it's very humbling when things, either don't go your way or they're not adding up, right, to where you want to be at. But if you, count the small victories, you celebrate them, as simple as getting somebody on the phone, right? Hey, I've been trying to call this person, but I finally talked to him today, and we're kind of progressing, even to like them submitting one loan document, right? So I think that's like, to me, that's huge. And then once you actually get to the pre-approval, I know that's where me being a rookie loan officer, to me that's exciting because I'm just one step closer, But yeah, I understand, especially after having gone through my first deal, like the real pressure begins once we're in escrow.
the real work begins once you put them under contract. That's 100% true, right? Because now we got to close the deal, right?
Oh yeah.
So the hard work was just done, but the harder work is now beginning.
Yeah.
Keeping
it together.
Keeping it all together, but you did it, so that's fantastic, right? So now you've just learned to celebrate the small wins.
Small wins.
Yeah. All these small wins, it starts to add up, and before you know it, you're scoring points. You're actually closing deals now.
Yeah.
So how many loan officers? Let's just say, how many loan applications have you taken versus, just rough numbers, versus the total pre-approvals that you have right now with pre-approved buyers right now that are looking for houses right now?
Right now I have about, I believe, 5 pre-approvals out. Total loan applications like completed, I would say probably close to like 20, 30, in that ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just a ballpark number, but one, the fact that keeps me motivated is I know I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
From just the thought, like the initial thought, hey, I think I want to be an LO,
mm-hmm.
to like, okay, let's make, let's go ahead and take this class, right? The 20-hour class, to now like all that hard work, I'm seeing the fruits, right? Like I planted those seeds, those seeds, you have to water them, right? And then now it's like that first one, it's like, man, I can do this.
You can do this, right?
So it's like my confidence was I always knew I can, but now it's like it's paid off, But now it's just keep on building and never get complacent, because there's going to be periods where it's going to be tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can be 3 feet from the gold, right?
Yeah.
So we're just 3 feet away.
3 feet away. And right now, without the proper training that you had to put yourself through, right? It's kind of like studying for that test, and then you took it to the next level, trained some more, and now you have 20, 30 applications, which eventually those are going to turn into your pre-approval buyers tomorrow, right? So tomorrow will be here. 6 months are going to be here. So you actually have a pipeline filled of like 30 to 40 buyers already in a very short period of time frame. That's an amazing number right there. It took me about 2 to 3 years to do that. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't.
Okay, it took me 2 to 3 years to get where you're at today, because I didn't have the resources that we have today. So it took me a much longer time frame. However, over the years, I've traveled the country, and I've had a lot of mentors pour into me, and it really helps all of us out. Like, I'm not one to hold anything back. If I went to a convention and there was a group of people there that were knowing that I was going to show up, they'd actually call me in advance and say, "Hey, Dave, can we have lunch with you? Because I just want to spend a few minutes of your time just so I can pick your brains."
Right.
I'm like, absolutely. You don't even have to buy me lunch, but I'll take it anyways. You know what I mean? They just want to corner me and say, "Hey, let's spend a little time with you." So, fantastic. So, what about your book of business that you're developing right now? Because literally, you're building your future right now, right? And you talked about goals earlier. You're building that. You're already living what you dreamt of, right? So you said, "Hey, I want to do this," and now you're living it. You're going through it. It's building more confidence. Tell the listeners, like, what about the realtors? I mean, because people want to know where that business is coming from sometimes, right? And if you've been around me long enough, I don't. There's nothing in me to hide anything.
Yeah.
Huh? And so people want to know. Sometimes they really think this, because I've talked to enough people out there flying around the country. That's why they want to corner me. Is like, if they heard this somewhere out there, they'd be like, "This might be too good to be true. So let me corner Dave real quick, see if we can get it out of him and see if he's really real." Like maybe some actors that somebody's paying. And I'm not no actor.
No.
I'm barely good enough to do this little podcast right now.
No.
But you get it. Sometimes people really think this is too good to be true, and because I had people ask me stuff like that, it's like, is this too good to be true? So
honestly, like the training here, I think it's second to none. One is just helping you establish your goal, right? Of course, and we always, if you can't measure your goal with steps, metrics, right, that's very important, because then, how do you know what you're doing is working to achieve that goal, right? So, we have systems in place here as far as training, right? That's huge. You can actually see it, right? We talk about it. You had asked me a question like, "Hey, well, how many times should you review your goals," right? And I didn't know. I just threw, I think, once a month, but you had put me on game as far as like, you should be reviewing them twice a day. That way you see, at the end, once in the morning, once at night. That way you can see where you can improve on the next day. So like that stuck with me. I'm still working on that. That's just being real. But not only that, like we really truly try to pour into our realtors at the end of the day. We pour into them, essentially not to expect anything in return. Of course, yes, we want all their business, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make them better, right? And then when you sow into people in that manner, as far as with no expectation, it's gonna come back to you regardless. It maybe not from them, but hey, it's gonna maybe we get 2 or 3 other people coming on in. And that with that mindset, hey, we just want to grow you, want to elevate you, want to build you up, grow your business over 50% over the next 12 months, and really like pick them up when they're like either feeling defeated, right? Like let's keep them motivated, keep them hungry, because that's all part of the grind, especially with like new realtors out there that I've talked to. It's just it's oh man, I'm having trouble with this. I was like, hey, well, let's get on the Zoom with Dave. He can pinpoint
Zoom, huh?
Zoom.
Is this where you learn all this stuff?
Zoom.
Wow, Zoom's making your mortgage career go Zoom.
Yep.
So zooming your loan officer career along, right? Because I'm actually like coaching and training loan officers, not in this office right now, and we're actually training them like they're all over the country, like Florida, Washington, all over Texas and stuff like that. And so what Zoom allows us to do is it allows us to do the recordings, and then you can watch it over and over again if you wish to really, get the most out of it, right? Suck everything out, every word out of the Zoom, so that way you can take that and go out in there and develop other realtors out there to help them with their business, what we're talking about right now, right?
Yep.
So that part of it is so important. And what I realize is that as we're talking is that you work full-time somewhere else.
We're full-time, yep.
You jump on these Zooms as much as possible, right?
That's where the gold is at.
That's where the gold's at. So you tap into the gold, and then do you ever go back into like rewatch any of the stuff, like, because it's now recorded, right?
Yeah. So honestly, at the end of the day, it's like when you read a book, do you remember it the first time you read it?
I don't remember what I did yesterday.
Oh yeah, exactly. All right. So I mean, you have to keep watching it because you're going to pick up things, something new every time.
Yeah.
That's huge. Words. That's what sales is, right? Knowing how to use your words correctly. Even how you say things, right? Like,
that's right. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you go back and watch these webinars, right? It's literally, just imagine, it's on-demand training. On demand.
At your fingertips.
It's right there at your fingertips. Yeah. So that means you can take your computer wherever you go, right? And dive right into that on-demand training and start working on building you up, right?
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, like, a lot of the times, like, I'm in my mobile office, which is my truck.
The dungeon?
So, the dungeon,
okay.
Right? And instead of listening to the radio, which is, you're not educating yourself on 102.7 or any of those radio stations, my favorite thing is the way I learn is by listening to podcasts, listening to, diving into our coaching site, hearing it, even rewinding it where I need to rewind it multiple times, because at the end of the year, what you're trying to pull out is keywords. You're trying to amplify your influence so you could go ahead and continue to move the process along and eventually close, right? So as part of sales, that's what we're trained to do, is to just close, right? Because if you don't close, then at the end of the day you don't make no money, and you don't make the realtor any money. And so we're trying to elevate them. We're trying to learn, especially like with when we just had a conversation like the other day, it was about even the guidelines, right? Getting my perspective on them initially was not the winning perspective. But you're teaching me, how to win in that aspect, knowing the guidelines, right? And that's learning them. You got the way we study for the test is the way we got to study our guidelines.
Yeah.
And right away, my mind's like, well, that is like that's hard. But hey, if you want to win, you want to dominate this business. That's what winners do. Is the things that people aren't willing to do, they just do them because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Phill, for sharing all that. I believe that somebody's going to listen to this at some point in the future and really help people out there take their business to a whole new different level, right? And it's at the very least that I feel like I can do to this community to